I was younger, it was all fun. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know everybody. As you get older, man, that changes.
Imagine being so gifted. The entire NBA rewrote its rules the moment you arrived. That's the story of Kevin Garnett, a kid from South Carolina who didn't just break into the league, he broke the mold completely. From hiding his early basketball dreams to becoming the first player in 20 years to jump straight from high school to the NBA, Garnett's rise wasn't just unlikely, it was historic. But behind the legendary intensity, the chest-pounding swagger, and the fire that terrified opponents is a story most fans have never heard. A story of struggle, defiance, transformation, and pure, unfiltered obsession. Today, we're peeling back the layers of the man they call the big ticket, the warrior, the icon, the game changer. This is Kevin Garnett, raw, relentless, and unforgettable. Let me take you back to the very beginning. Kevin Maurice Garnett was born on May 19, 1976, in Greenville, South Carolina, where humid afternoons hung in the air like a heavy curtain and basketballs echoed across neighborhood courts. From the start, life demanded strength. His parents separated soon after his birth, leaving his mother, Shirley Garnett, to raise him and his siblings with a resolve that Kevin would later mirror. Growing up in Malden, Kevin was drawn to the beat of the game on cracked blacktop courts rather than polished school gyms. Under the relentless southern sun, basketball became more than a pastime. It became his lifeline, steady and grounding, like a heartbeat he could always return to. By high school, Kevin's frame had stretched into a towering silhouette, yet he moved with a surprising lightness, gliding across the floor like a dancer trapped in a giant's body. Coaches and teammates watched in stunned admiration as he turned his unusual combination of size and agility into a powerful advantage. But every rising star faces turbulence. Racial tensions in Malden forced Kevin to confront hard truths about where he belonged, pushing him to seek a place where he could rise without constraint. That search carried him north to Chicago. At Farragut Academy, basketball became a proving ground. Chicago challenged him, but also lifted him. Under blazing gym lights, he delivered nightly performances so dominant they felt unreal, averaging 25.2 points, 17.9 rebounds, 6.7 assists, and 6.5 blocks per game. Numbers that read more like legend than the work of a teenager. Awards soon followed: National Player of the Year, McDonald's All-American MVP. With each honor, his future stretched wider. Scouts murmured, reporters watched, and the once unthinkable, a jump from high school to the NBA, began to feel not bold, but destined. Kevin Garnett didn't enter the league. He crashed into it, a 19-year-old phenom who redrew the map for high school talent. In 1995, he became the first player in 2 decades to leap straight from high school to the NBA, going 5th overall to Minnesota, a franchise searching for a heartbeat, a direction, a leader, and, in one move, finding all three. From the moment he touched an NBA floor, he played like a volcano in motion. Explosive, unpredictable, impossible to contain. Soon after, he was already an all-star, hauling the Timberwolves to their first-ever playoff berth and transforming potential into momentum. As belief solidified, so did commitment. 2 years later, Minnesota handed him a 6-year, $126 million deal, the richest long-term contract in American sports at the time. And rather than buckle under its weight, he rose. From there, he became the franchise's beating heart, a 15-time All-Star, a defensive menace with 9 all-defensive first-team selections, an All-NBA mainstay, and a relentless glass cleaner who led the league in rebounding 4 straight seasons, a power forward as versatile as a Swiss Army knife. Soon enough, one season crowned the ascent. In 2003-04, he willed Minnesota to the Western Conference Finals and claimed the NBA MVP, chiseling his name into the league's granite. Eventually, legends move. In 2007, a blockbuster carried him to Boston, where, alongside Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, he formed a trio that rumbled like thunder in formation. Within a year, he became Defensive Player of the Year and helped deliver the 2008 NBA championship, sealing the moment with a shout heard around basketball: "Anything is possible." Afterward, his journey threaded through Brooklyn and back to Minnesota. Older, wiser, the fire banked but burning. By the time he stepped away, his resume read like myth: NBA champion, 2004 MVP, 2008 Defensive Player of the Year, All-Star Game MVP, 15 times All-Star, 9 times All-Defensive First Team, and a place on the NBA 75th Anniversary Team. Finally, immortality followed with induction into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. In the end, Garnett's career wasn't a path so much as a stage in a combat zone, a legacy forged like steel in a furnace. He didn't just change teams. He shifted the league and rewired what a power forward could be. He wasn't merely the big ticket, he was the price of greatness itself. Off the court, Kevin Garnett lived nothing like the fiery gladiator fans saw in the arena. Raised by his mother Shirley after his parents separated, he learned early to guard the people he loved and to keep his personal world tucked close, almost like a fortress built brick by brick from experience. Now that his career story stands tall, let's step into the space few ever saw, his personal life. As his NBA fame grew, Garnett moved through his private life quietly until he crossed paths with Brandy Padilla, whose calm presence steadied his storm-like energy. Their connection grew gradually, like a flame protected from the wind, and in 2004, they married in a small, secluded ceremony that matched his love for privacy. Together, they welcomed daughters Capri and Cavalli, and KG stepped into fatherhood with the same fierce devotion he once poured into every rebound and roar. Capri blossomed into an athlete in her own right, while the quieter Cavalli showed her gifts more subtly, reflecting the gentler side of their father. But even the strongest ties can fray. Over time, pressure seeped into the marriage, and the bond that once felt unbreakable began to crack. Their separation eventually led to a difficult divorce marked by custody and financial battles, a painful contrast to the guarded love they once fiercely protected. Through it all, Garnett remained a committed co-parent, staying present in his daughters' lives despite the turmoil. Life moved forward, and a new chapter unfolded when Garnett welcomed another daughter, Naya, with Nekat Akman, a quieter, softer turn in his personal story, but no less meaningful. Today, through selective interviews and his media work, KG reveals slivers of the man behind the myth, still intense, still passionate, but tempered by the relationships that shaped him and softened by the family that continues to anchor him. Behind every chest pound and every battle cry was a father, a partner, a man who learned, slowly and deeply, that even fire needs a place to rest. Now, shifting from his personal life, let's step into the world Kevin Garnett built behind the scenes, the world of his wealth. Kevin Garnett didn't just conquer basketball, he learned to bend the economics of the game to his will. His financial ascent began the moment he stepped from high school hallways into NBA history. But his fortune would grow far beyond the hardwood. He started on a quiet note with a $5.4 million rookie deal, the kind of beginning that felt like a soft drum beat before a storm. But that beat soon thundered into the league when, in 1997, Minnesota wagered their future on him with a 6-year, $126 million extension. A contract so seismic it rattled salary cap debates across the NBA. By its final season, Garnett was earning up to $28 million, numbers that seemed almost mythic at the time. The mega deals kept coming. A 5-year, $100 million extension in 2003. A 3-year extension worth up to $60 million post-Boston trade. By the time he stepped away from the game, Garnett had amassed $334.3 million in NBA salary alone, making him the highest-paid player in league history at the moment of his retirement. But KG never let his wealth sit idle. He funneled the same relentless energy that once fueled his defense into business. By 2025, his net worth hovered between $120 to $130 million, with long-term financial projections placing his adjusted wealth closer to $250 million. A fortune shaped by an athlete who didn't just earn money, but multiplied it with precision. His business moves carried the same bite as his mid-range jumper. With Big Ticket Sports LLC, Garnett stepped into sports media and storytelling, using Area 21 to pour his raw voice and electric presence into television. His podcast, KG Certified, stretched that influence even further, turning his personality into a brand with momentum of its own. Then came his leap into sports and tech, an arena as fast-moving as his transition game. By investing in Tribe Gaming, he positioned himself at the center of a digital sports wave fueled by young global fans. It wasn't luck, it was strategy. The kind of move made by someone who always sees the floor before anyone else. Real estate became another battleground he mastered. With luxury properties and large-scale investments, Garnett built assets that grew steadily, quietly, like skyscrapers rising behind construction tarps. And endorsements from Adidas, Nike, and One, Gatorade, and Anta added millions more, with some years delivering an extra $10 million from brands that trusted him to sell intensity and authenticity. Through sharp decisions, unrelenting drive, and a refusal to fade once the final whistle blew, Garnett transformed his career earnings into a vast, diverse empire spanning sports, media, tech, real estate, and entertainment. Now that we've seen how Garnett amassed his empire, it's time to explore how he lives with it, starting with the sprawling mansions that mirror the scale of his ambition. Kevin Garnett's homes reveal a quieter side of a man known for fire, each one a private stronghold carved into the landscape, much like he carved out space in the paint. His Lake Minnetonka estate in Orono was the clearest example of that hidden power. In 2006, he bought the 7-acre peninsula for $6 million, wrapped by 1,300 feet of shoreline as if he were claiming his own island of calm. The mansion rose above the lake with more than 12,000 square feet of modern, understated design, flooded with light and framed by sweeping views that made the water feel like part of the architecture. A guest house sat quietly at the edge, a retreat within a retreat. It wasn't built to impress, it was built to exhale. When Garnett later sold the property in a private, whisper-quiet deal for $9 million, it became the most expensive home sale in Minnesota that year, proof that even his real estate carried its own legacy. Some accounts paint the estate as even grander. Over 16,000 square feet, a 6-car garage, and nearly 400 meters of private lakefront. However you view it, the home felt like a personal kingdom, shaped for a man who needed space to think, to recover, and to breathe after the relentless battles of his career. When his journey shifted to Boston, Garnett sought a new kind of refuge. In Concord, Massachusetts, he found it, a modernist glass and light sanctuary tucked into nearly 13 acres of wooded quiet, almost like living inside a snow globe. He bought the home during his Celtics era, the same era that brought him a championship and a permanent place in Boston lore. Inside its 10,859 square feet, panoramic windows, soaring ceilings, and serene rooms offered the balance he needed. Space for solitude, space for strategy. Beneath the main floors lay the heartbeat of his preparation, a basement where he and teammates gathered to study film, sharpening their mindset night after night. Years later, the home returned to the market for just under $6 million, a price that echoed the prestige of both the structure and the champion who once walked its halls. In the end, Garnett's mansions were never about extravagance for its own sake. They were mirrors of his inner world, expansive when he needed space, secluded when he needed silence, and always intentional. Minnesota was the empire he built, Boston, the crown he earned. And in both places, the man famous for fire finally found room to breathe. Now for his car collections, Kevin Garnett moved through life the way he patrolled the paint. Intense, deliberate, never for show. Nothing captured that quiet power more than his life on wheels. While other stars flaunted chrome-wrapped supercars, KG kept his drives behind gates and tinted glass, guarding them like he guarded his inner circle. No garage tours, no glossy key drops, just silence by design, the same intention that helped him earn $334.3 million in NBA salary, the league's top career haul at the time he retired. With that kind of wealth, he could have filled a runway with exotic machines, missile-like supercars, jet-smooth luxury SUVs, boardroom-grade sedans. Instead, he chose power under the surface, like a storm moving beneath calm skies, engines built to serve, speed wrapped in understatement. Those closest to him described a man who prized precision over spectacle. His cars echoed that code. Kevin Garnett has always chased a quieter kind of luxury, not the glittering, diamond-loud kind, but the kind that gathers strength slowly, like a storm building behind darkening clouds. After years of ruling the hardwood, his money didn't spill into excess. It flowed into control, influence, and legacy. Each move crafted with the same precision he brought to a clutch possession. But perhaps his most extravagant indulgence took form in the world of entertainment. Garnett didn't dabble, he built. He launched content cartel production studios, stepping behind the camera like a maestro conducting a symphony. In that creative arena, he spent not just wealth but imagination, crafting stories with the same fire he once unleashed in fourth-quarter battles. And when he appeared in Uncut Gems, it wasn't just acting, it was reinvention made luxurious. His luxury extended beyond himself. Through the Anything is Possible Fund, Garnett funneled money into youth mentorship, education, and community development, a form of giving that demanded significant financial muscle. For him, philanthropy wasn't duty. It was a refined splurge, one that bought futures instead of trinkets. Even in conversation, Garnett gravitated toward premium arenas. Whether debating on national broadcasts or sparring verbally on his podcasts, he indulged in the luxury of speaking from the highest platforms, his voice polished and amplified like a finely tuned instrument. Kevin Garnett's luxuries were never the kind you could window shop. They didn't glitter under streetlights or rev down boulevards. They lived in boardrooms, studios, tech labs, and community spaces. Luxuries that build worlds, not decorate them. His splurges weren't about opulence. They were about expansion, about turning wealth into something with pulse, purpose, and permanence. Because while others bought luxury to be seen, Kevin Garnett bought luxury to endure. But greatness has a price, and like every superstar who rises too high, Garnett eventually met the one thing no highlight reel can outrun: controversy. The first storm didn't come from an enemy. It came from someone standing close enough to whisper. In 2018, Garnett learned that more than $77 million of his fortune had evaporated, drained through a scheme spun by his longtime wealth manager, Charles Banks IV, already imprisoned for defrauding Tim Duncan. Garnett's lawsuit accused his accountant and CPA firm of letting the theft unfold in plain sight, claiming they watched Banks siphon his money while placing him on a strict allowance of his own earnings, like locking a king out of his own vault. The fight deepened a year later. In 2019, a federal judge ruled that Garnett's malpractice claims against the accounting firm could move forward. Emails, financial logs, and testimony suggested that the people handling his fortune seemed more connected to each other than to the man whose empire they were meant to protect. For Garnett, a player who controlled every inch of the court, this betrayal arrived like a blindside hit he never saw coming. But the shadows didn't stop there. In 2025, his name surfaced again, this time in whispers tied to an FBI investigation that shook the NBA. Reports linked him to private, high-stakes poker games connected to a mafia-influenced gambling ring that led to arrests of former players and even a current head coach. Sources claim Garnett had played in one of the 2019 games, but unlike others, he was never charged, never officially implicated, just a faint outline in a messy investigation, like a silhouette flickering at the edge of a fire. The headlines buzzed, rumors swirled, and yet nothing concrete ever landed on him. Still, the whispers were enough to drag his name into a storm he never stepped into willingly. Through lawsuits, fraud, courtroom battles, and scandalous murmurs, Garnett didn't collapse. He didn't crumble. He stood, shaken but unbroken. And that is Kevin Garnett's luxury. Quiet, calculated, built to last. Not the loud kind, but the kind forged through powerful choices. Mansions that breathe, businesses that compound, studios that amplify his voice. Every move echoes his game. Intense, precise, purposeful, turning wealth into influence and comfort into legacy. While others buy to be seen, KG invests to endure, stitching a world that moves like a current beneath the surface. Steady, strong, unmistakably the big ticket. If you love this look behind the legend, like, subscribe, and tap the bell. More stories of greatness on and off the court are coming next. Thanks for watching. Keep chasing your own version of luxury.